In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve equations, and I'm focusing on the Chapter 2 review packet that you got in class. And so I'm going to go through the first 6 solving questions on this video. So stay tuned for a later video for the next 6 problems on the front page of our in-class review. So for question number 1, what I'm going to start with on the left side of my equal sign is distributing the 8 to the set of parentheses, and then I'm going to distribute the 4 on the right side of the equal sign with the terms on the inside of that parentheses. So here I'm going to have 8 times x and 8 times 5, so that's going to be 8x minus 40. Now I have another term here that I'm going to keep as it is because I haven't done anything to that yet. And then on the right side of my equal sign, I'm going to have 12x minus 20. So now what I'm going to do is on the left side of my equal sign, so because these terms are on the same side, I'm going to combine those together. And if I take 8x plus 4x, I'm going to have 12x. So combining those two terms, I have 12x. Now the rest of the equation I left the same. Now as I'm starting to solve, because I have my variables on both sides of my equal sign, to move my variables to the other variables, so the x's to make them join together, I need to use an inverse operation by subtracting. Now what happens here is my variables cancel on both sides. There are no x's left together, and I'm left with negative 40 equals negative 20, which is impossible. So for this question here, your answer is no solution, because there is nothing that you can plug into the x to make these equal each other, because, well, negative 40 doesn't equal negative 20. So for this answer, part A, no solution. Now letter B is going to be a little bit easier than this problem because we're only going to distribute on the left side here. So I have negative 8x plus negative 8 times negative 3 makes this a positive 24 when you multiply. Now since my letters, I only have letters on the left side, I'm going to move the number 24 over to the other side by subtracting it over. So now what I'm going to have is negative 8x is equal to negative 24 plus 5, or negative 19. So now, if I'm going to solve for x, excuse me, not f, I'm going to divide by a negative and the number 8. So 19 divided by 8 is not going to reduce that fraction, so I'm just going to leave it 19 over 8, but I am going to simplify that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, now here we have letter C. When you have a fraction equal to a fraction, what you're going to do is cross multiply. And I notice there's a negative in the front. Now this negative you only get to use once, so I'm going to assign the negative to the 3, and I'm going to use that negative with only the 3 and not also the 7, because you only have one negative sign, so either pick the 3 or the 7 to assign it to, and then start your cross multiplying. So I have 21 times negative 3. And that will equal 7 times x. And if you multiply this together here, you're going to get negative 63. And now if we divide by the coefficient in front of the letter, negative 63 divided by 7 is negative 9. And that's your solution for part C. Okay, now here are the next 3. For letter D here, I notice I have only a letter x on the left side only, so I'm going to move my numbers to the other side of the equal sign by adding 10 over. And here I have negative x is equal to 38. And I'm almost done solving. I can't leave my solution as a negative variable, so we're going to divide both sides by the number negative 1, so that negative is going to pop over to this side instead. So negative 38. Now for part E, very much like what we did for C, we are going to cross multiply. But see how there are 2 terms here in the numerator of your fraction? Your 3 needs to get multiplied by the x and the minus 5. So what you want to do is set up your 3 in front of the parentheses of x minus 5 together. Since these 2 terms were in the numerator, you need to distribute your 3 to the x and to the 5. And then likewise with the other diagonal, if you multiply them together, I have the number 4, and that needs to get multiplied by x and the number 6. So now we're going to have to distribute on both sides of the equal sign. So here I'm going to have 3x minus 15 when I multiply by 3. And on the right side, I'll have 4x plus 24 if I multiply my 4 through that set of parentheses. Now, if you had done the other diagonal first, so let's say you had this on the left side and this over here on the right side, you'd have the same equation. So whatever diagonal you pick to do first, it does not matter as long as what your equation is equal to that these terms are on one side and these specific two terms are on the opposite side of the equal sign. Okay, now that I have letters on both sides, I'm going to move the smaller coefficient of my variable term over. So since 3 is smaller than 4, I'm going to move my 3x over to this side. So I'll have negative 15 is now equal to x plus 24. So now that my x's are on the right side, that means my numbers have to go on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 24 over. And if I take negative 24 and I subtract 15, I'm going to get negative 39. And that is your solution for x. Okay, last one for this video here. To get my variable x solved, what I need to do is isolate that term. So the term right now is a negative 2x thirds term, and I'm going to add 5 to the other side to start. So I have negative 2 thirds of my x is now equal to 24. So now I'm going to do this in 2 steps. You can multiply by reciprocal on both sides, but I want to show you there are 2 parts here. First, I'm going to start by undoing the divide by 3 by multiplying both sides by 3. And 24 times 3 is 72. And now I'm going to divide by negative 2. So I just like to do it in 2 steps, but you can absolutely do it in 1. Just multiply by reciprocal. And here, you're going to get negative 36. All right, stay tuned for the next video for G through L.